There is a new documentary out, and we are doing a special screening here tomorrow in my backyard here in Des Moines, because yours truly is featured in this film. It is, I think, maybe the only. It's the most, if not the only, balanced view of the Trump presidency that I have seen produced, because the entire perspective comes from the right. I think the left has shown it's just not capable of showing any modicum of self-awareness or restraint where Donald Trump is concerned. And so a filmmaker by the name of Robert Orlando, armed with the knowledge of Trump's favorite movie, by his own admission, Citizen Kane, set out to embark upon a journey. What is Trump's rosebud then? What keeps him going when other men would have walked away in shame or in defeat, scandals, divorces, failures? It doesn't matter. He comes back over and over and over again. It's got a cast of characters across the spectrum, from Trump zealots like Seb Gorka to Trump skeptics who worked for him like Bill Barr, to people like me that don't care what the hell your name is. If I like what you do, I'm for you. If I don't, then I don't. And I think by the way, it's just a really well done film as well. So we look forward to screening it tomorrow. And there is Robert Orlando, the guy who put this film together. Robert, good to see you again, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again. I look forward to our discussion today.
You bet. So the idea to do this movie came from where? Other than everywhere, the idea to do this movie came from where?
The unavoidable abyss of mass media. No, it was the unavoidable subject matter, and I'm a big fan of Orson Welles. And having done films on Reagan and John Paul II and historical figures like Patton and Apostle Paul, I didn't want to address the elephant in the room, because I didn't think the way I viewed Trump would be acceptable to most people, because I tend to take a complex, independent point of view like you do. So I didn't know when to pull the trigger. But when his first re-election was coming around, I thought I had something significant to say, wrote a book, was attacked from all sides. You know you're doing something right when you get attacked from all sides. And also then I tried to make a film during COVID and got crushed because the money ran out and everything ran out at one time. And I found myself trying to put together an essay, an original version of the film, which was like an essay comparing Trump to William Randolph Hearst through the character of Citizen Kane. I called it Citizen Trump, a one-man show, because I was trying to show ultimately that Trump was more of a media figure than anything else. And we can deconstruct that if we have the time today. But then it was bothering me for years, because it was an incomplete attempt, which got shut down again from both ends. No one wanted to hear it. It was a bit too heady you needed to know a little bit about Citizen Kane to make the reference and see that Hearst is almost an archetype of Trump to varying degrees, as is Citizen Kane, the character. But it just was bothering me, because I didn't handle the Rosebud issue, I think, well enough, didn't have the testimonies of those close to him, and that became my Can't Let It Go second venture into a second version of the film, which became Trump's Rosebud. Like, what is really ticking here? What's the core of the story, and how do I get to it?
So how do you get to it?
Well, I'm not going to give the ending away. No one will see the film, but I think I did offer using the same plot strategy of Kane, and meaning that at the end of it all, we all are subject to these symbolic relationships of the past. You want to call them our wounds, the things we cover up, the things we hide. It's not just psychobabble, if it's handled correctly, and I think with a certain level of sophistication, but it does give you a way to track back that sometimes all of our lives are a way to try and forget something. It's all a reaction from something that hurt us real bad when we were young. And this is not like a left-right issue. This is not even political in nature. I think this is so basic, it's absurd. I've had such a fight to just get the film out. So I'm looking forward to finally uncorking that and saying, no, we're all sinners, we're all human, we all have things we cover up, even powerful men, and maybe even more so with powerful men.
What did you learn through this process about the subject matter at hand that surprised you the most?
The first thing was, I lived in New York with Trump for so long that, frankly, I mean this respectfully, he was almost such a accepted kind of figure, like I don't want to use the wrong language, but he was just accepted as someone who, on some level, yeah, he was a businessman, did great things at certain times. So it was kind of like more of a buffoon, like more of like a showcasing, over the top, you don't quite take him serious. So when you're living with someone like that, he was almost easy to dismiss. I mean, he's waking up in bed with his wife, Melania, or I don't know if he was married then, talking with Howard Stern about what happened the night before. He's calling Tucker Carlson on the phone, and I don't know what kind of, can I use language on your?
Probably not, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's talking about how, Tucker makes a comment that's slightly derogatory, even just critical of him on the news, and he catches Tucker at the pool the next day with his children and says, yeah, that was a good comment, but I get blanked more than you do. I mean, just so there's like petty cross-dressing with Giuliani. He just wasn't a serious figure, and he was continuously running to be president. It wasn't just like one moment, an epiphany, and then he came down the escalator. He was calculating for years.
Yeah, he was going to run in 2012. I know people that he flew out to Trump Tower. He was showing them the campaign merch and everything. They were ready to go, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they pulled the plug and did not do it. Yeah.
But it goes back even further. He was looking into the Reform Party.
Right.
I have a theory on this. I couldn't cover it in the book. If I get to write the full tome, like if we have enough distance from us, I might like Haberman did, but maybe with coming more from the center right, I would still hit some of the notes that she did, and that is that a lot of this comes from, I think, avoiding the strongman contest. So in the case of 2000, he was not going to have a debate with Pat Buchanan. He would have been slaughtered by Pat Buchanan. As a governor, he was not going to take on Cuomo. And then even Romney was a little softer, but strong enough to kind of keep him outside the circle. And they played tricks on each other. And finally, Trump dropped out when he realized he wasn't being embraced. But he's been looking at running for a long time and selling books as a result of that. And I see DeSantis in the same archetype. Like, he needs to be destroyed first because he's too strong of an opponent if it ever came down to one-on-one. And that's another little piece that's in the nuance of my book, but it doesn't quite flesh it out. There was no room to flesh it out.
What do you want this film to accomplish?
I wanted to reposition as best a film can do. But let me take a step back. For the Iowa release, I would love it to get into the ether of the caucus because I think it's a film that creates a forum in a style that's not memes or just like soundbite level stuff, but more the complexities where you can weigh things against each other and say, well, it is not all bad or good. And I would probably check a lot of the policy boxes that Trump did and where is he right or wrong, which I think you try and do on your show all the time, which is why I think this is a great opportunity for us to do something together. But I think I want them to see that it's okay to think independently again. You don't have to pick a side before you start thinking. And I was getting a little pissed off with like that obligatory, like, what side are you on? And, like people approach you, right or left. Forget the left. I mean, you're not on your side. They've got a list for you already. But on your right, it was almost like, how could you go against the fearless leader, as you've used the phrase? And I'm like, no, that can't work out well. So I would like to like crash that right-left ceiling, the glass ceiling, and say, no, this is our world. We get to talk about it. We get to make films about it. We get to caucus about it. We'll determine who our leaders are. Thank you very much. When it's time to invite you into our public space, we'll do so.
What's the thing about your movie you think the audience will be the most surprised by?
I think if they're sophisticated in their approach to Trump, I think they'll like the care I gave the story. I think they'll find it a little interesting, and without giving too much away, I do try and use some stylized punchlines and things like a Woody Allen type thing. And I know he's a bad reference to people. I mean, stylistically, like we're using the black and white and doing it as a throwback where I'm like a detective going through a world of politics, fish out of water, and just allowing. I think that also just hearing the testimonies of others and having all the differences of opinion, which is more like the real world, I think they'll feel refreshed. They'll say, well, this guy allowed like a chorus in the film. He allowed a dialogue. He didn't preach a point of view, which is what filmmaking should do. And it's what your film did so well. And why people didn't understand it is because you were just making a film.
Mm-hmm. How did you get Barr and Gorka? Like you got me because one of the same guys helping you with imaging and branding for your film worked on Nefarious, and that's how the connection was made with the two of us. How did you get people like Barr and Gorka to participate?
Even within Trump's circle, you realize that people are walking on eggshells. Now, to me, this is a worrisome sign because you would think at that point, guys, I'm kind of on the team. I might be like this far onto the right in the team, but we're like in the control room together. We're all flying the same spaceship. But even within there, the fear to be nuanced and the fear to also publicly promote the film, to me, was another indication of, wait, this is something to worry about, even if it's all on the right, because it's not as bad as dealing with the neo-Marxist stuff, and we can get into what all that craziness is. But it's still bad because it's still shutting down thought, and it's becoming pick my guy, or this conversation's over, or pick my guy, otherwise I can't represent you, and I cannot publicize your work. So I'm still feeling that loyalty, and I don't mean people can't be loyal, and I think there's a reason to be loyal to Trump that I hope comes out in the screening, but I think that it was the loyalty first, that secret demand of, like, how could you dare question the leader, and that's what made me want to do it more so. So I came to you because I said, is there any independent thinkers who exist in the right who actually are not afraid to say, I could hold two thoughts together at the same time? That's what and that's where you came out. I said, I know, I knew you from the Blaze. So you and I did an interview earlier, and I was like, why not?
What was the conversation with Seb Gorka like to get him to come on?
Short of arm wrestling, I was ready to take my shirt off and take him to the ground. It would have been easier to just take my shirt off and just film this, guys, and let's just do this now. It would have been easier. He's a powerful guy. He's got really strong opinions, and you have to respect his background. Mm-hmm. Given where he's come from, you better be a tough person, and you better stand for something. Yep. And he's also probably proximity-wise, probably has been in some of the most intimate moments where he's the inside guy and they're banging on the walls. So, I mean, I understand. I don't ultimately agree where he lands. I think there's still room for that critical space. But I understand, you said the zealot. I don't know if I would have said zealot, but that loyalist. I'm going down with the chief. That's my job. What
about Barr? How did you get him to do it?
Ran a similar thing, ran into him at a meeting. He found out I wrote a book on Patton, and he's a little bit of a military historian himself, and he loved the idea that we discussed with each other how using military strategy is a great metaphor for leadership, and I've written 3 books on this topic. So he liked that, and that led to a conversation. I was like, I've been exploring this for a long time. Would you be willing to get on camera with? And he said, sure, because I think at his point, maybe not in exactly the way I landed, but in a slightly nuanced, different way, he also was trying to balance different points of view within on one character. And I think he was finding the same problem, that he got pushed out from the right, landed in the left, didn't necessarily want to land there. I don't think he was scheming this, but I think he got so pushed out because he was willing to say, no, he was wrong there. No, that's a narcissist. No, he's thinking of himself, not the country, and that's not going to do well. And that's back to that loyalty first vibe that I picked up on. So I saw him at the far left of the right, within the conversation. So, all right, very plain spoken. Yeah.
We're just about out of time. How can the audience outside of Iowa see this movie?
So they can go to trumpsrosebud.com, and it's there for streaming. Available now at any time. But most importantly, I'm hoping if we can, give the ad where the theater is in Iowa. Are you planning on doing that? If not, I can do it right now.
Yeah, it's at the pardon me, the Palms Theater in Waukee, Iowa, is where we're doing this on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. And then you and I will talk about it afterwards, too, in fact. So Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Palms Theater, nicest theater probably in the state of Iowa. 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the Palms Theater in Waukee. You can go pre-order tickets right now on their website from them. Palms Theater in Waukee, if you want to come and see this movie. It is extremely well done. And everybody else can go to trumpsrosebud.com. Robert?
Yes. And I would just think, if I can add 15 seconds, I think the films are meant to be viewed in a theater. They're meant to be taken in almost dreamlike. You have to ingest, you have to give it a little time. It's not like watching something even on a nice home TV set, because I think it's ultimately communal.
Yep.
Frank Capra's famous quote, I'd rather have 500 people in the dark popular than have a mass audience. But so that 500 people in the dark, and they might not be 500 tomorrow, but whatever that number is tomorrow, I'm saying I think will lead to special things because it'll be a safe forum to discuss things that I think a lot more people are thinking about but are not voicing in social media.
TrumpsRosebud.com is where you want to go. TrumpsRosebud.com. We'll see you tomorrow, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate what you do.
You bet. Same here.